episode 2 is here, and we are all so excited to discuss another week of Moon Knight. So let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on episode 2 of Moon Knight, as well as making sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I'm going to be here, your main place to be right when the episode drops, so we can keep talking these episodes, because God, I'm loving this show. And while I think the first episode is still stronger than the second one is a great addition to the series so far, and continues my love for what possibly could be the best Marvel series since Daredevil. Not saying it's as great as Daredevil yet, because we got to see the rest of the show, and in general, see maybe if they do a season 2, or in general what they do with the character next, because Daredevil, I think, is like peak Marvel television. It's the best thing they've done in the last 10 years. I love Daredevil. But going off on a tangent and jumping back into Moon Knight, this was an episode coming off of last week where he's just going crazy. He gave in and let Mark go wild and beat the shit out of that Jackal, and then boom! He's crazy, because when you look at all the footage, he's going back and it's not there. It just shows him running around like a freak, and of course, they let him go. They said, hey, you need to get help. You can go to this doctor's if you need, but you're going to lose your job. Then, of course, it takes him off on this little journey, because then he finds out that he was married, or at least Mark Spector was, which we'll talk about in just a second, because then he starts going, I need to figure out what is going on. And one thing I must say throughout this entire second episode is that Oscar Isaac's performance is incredible. The way that he flips between both Mark and Steven is absolutely incredible. And, you know, it really much goes as far to say is, I know a lot of people are making fun of Steven's accent in here, but it kind of makes sense, because I truly think that Mark is actually the original version, and that I feel what I'm looking at, because again, this is not a straight adaptation from the comics. They are definitely changing quite a bit, but what they are honing in is the character of Moon Knight and his split personalities, and in general, the quirkiness of course, the older Moon Knight comics, and the more serious, more darker tone of the newer Moon Knight comics. And I'm really liking that difference, but Oscar Isaac's way of reversing back and forth, and just when you see them talking with one another, that frustration, the torture in Steven's face and eyes compared to Mark's frustration and his dedication to really much giving his life to Khonshu, but in the same sense trying to further out the development so, of course, Khonshu doesn't take over Lila. I think that's her name, Lila, the love interest. And I found that to be interesting, but again, as he's going down to the storage, he's going to different ones, finds this storage place, has that great discussion with him, and finds the Scarab. He goes, I'm going to go turn myself into the authorities, then I'll go to jail, and we won't hurt anyone ever again. Well, that happens, and then, well, he heads back to his apartment with Lila, and she runs away with the Scarab after the FBI comes over. But guess what? It's not. It is, well, it wasn't the FBI, but whatever. The agents come over, and it turns out they are also working for Ethan Hawke's character. Ethan Hawke takes him in, and Ethan Hawke is very much a character from the comics that I've never actually, like, intertwined with him. From my understanding, he's actually not that big of a character. I think his actual character itself has only showed up in a couple episodes, or a couple comic iterations. So I'm assuming they're probably going to infuse him with a different Moon Knight villain. But in general, this scene is so important, because then we start to learn that Ethan Hawke, unless he's lying, used to also be a vessel for Khonshu, which then goes as far to say, and we learn a little bit more about that and what Khonshu's whole dealings with. And again, we can't trust everything there, but Khonshu, in a sense, is kind of a villain and really much taking over his entire life. And man, in this moment, you know, he goes, can I speak to Mark? And they're just trying to figure out what the Scarab is. She comes in, and then shit ensues. He pounds the ground. That other Jackal comes out, and she goes, you need to suit up. You need to suit up. But then she realizes this isn't the Mark that she loves or once did love. And they both go their different ways. He flies out, he's suiting up, he hits his head, and boom, it flips, and it's Mr. Knight, which I did not think we were going to get this soon into the series. Now we have Moon Knight and Mr. Knight, both versions of the character that I really love, and it was great. And I love how the quirkiness was playing out of Mr. Knight, and I love how they're looking. He goes, why are you dressed like this? Then, of course, he tries to be a badass, but the Jackal snaps him up. His punch, though, to the Jackal was pretty damn good, and then he pretty much Mark throughout this entire fight. Mark is like, you need to give in so no one else gets hurt. He gives in. The Moon Knight veil comes up, and the Jackal gets his ass kicked. They're running across the rooftops, all this sorts of things. I love some of the visual effects in here. I will say, I don't know if it's some of these, like my Wi-Fi or anything. Some of the visual effects I think are a little bit iffy with the Jackal. But the show is so good that it's, lazy, not even lazy CGI, just wonky CGI at times, which I think may be intentional because of how the Jackal is portrayed. It's really fascinating, and I love seeing Moon Knight kind of go up against this and then just really much pounding him into that spear and absolutely killing him, which again was so exciting. And I'm loving this. I'm loving the portrayal of this. And then we get that great scene again between Mark and Steven where Mark pounds on the glass and then he has a great discussion with Khonshu. And Khonshu's pretty much like, we'll finish this mission, but my next vessel, you know who she is, near and dear. And he goes, okay, where are we going? And he goes, And then it flashes and we are in Egypt, leading us into episode 3 and really much fooling out the whole portrayal of that. Something that I love about Moon Knight is the dark grittiness of him of the street level, but as well as showing that globe-trottingness that he is. And of course, some of the earlier comics, like the one behind me. I'm loving this show. I can't express that enough. Let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on this episode. Make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking Moon Knight over here on a daily basis. Do you have any theories or thoughts? What might be going on? Where this might be leading? Let me know down below. And of course, until next time, guys, stay classy.